Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 572. Recite My Name. After a series of chores, Klein opened his locked bedroom door and looked into the living room. He saw Danitz sleeping soundly on a reclining chair. Although he had long heard it, Klein couldn't help but lampoon. It's not even 4 in the afternoon. Has this guy completely let his hair down now that he doesn't need to monitor the radio transceiver? With a thought, he gradually smiled, feeling that this was exactly what he needed. The premise of him maintaining his lucidity in dreams had involved someone invading his consciousness. Typically, his dreams were a turbid mess, which meant that he alone wasn't able to complete the experiment. After all, he couldn't plant a psychological cue on himself. Therefore, he planned on using external forces to enter the dreams of others. This way, he could maintain his lucidity like a nightmare. He originally planned on heading out to find a suitable target, but Danitz's posture was in such a perfect state that he could hardly stop himself from kicking him. No, I should be experimenting. Klein corrected his thoughts. He contemplated for a moment, and didn't use a dream charm. As a Sequence 7 pyromaniac, with the ancient name being Fire Mage, Danitz's spiritual perception wasn't to be written off. Once he softly chanted an incantation that could stir the powers of nature, Danitz would definitely be awoken. As such, it would be a question of whether he could evade the matter in a timely fashion. After some deliberation, Klein took out another thing he had prepared. It was a gem-like object that seemed dark and deep. It was the beyonder characteristic left behind by a nightmare. It could be used to a certain extent, just like Marionettis Rosego's all-black eye. However, the effects were inferior to one that was from a mystical item. For example, this nightmare beyonder characteristic didn't allow Klein to pass through the dreams of someone across the city from his inn suite, nor was he able to forcefully pull people into a dream. However, it was still simple enough to perform the most basic form of intruding into someone's dream at a close distance. Klein held the dark gem and spread out his spirituality. The illusory darkness rapidly spread before his eyes, filling his vision. Everything before his eyes were blanketed over, including Danitz. There was no longer a humanoid figure but an ellipsoidal blob of light. Klein immediately extended his spirituality out and made contact with it. Without any warning, various scenes flooded his surroundings as they flashed rapidly. Finally, it came to stop on a ship that was dozens of meters long. It had a smoke-churning chimney and large sails that were fully raised. The deck was polished abnormally bright, shimmering with the glimmer of a gold coin when sunlight hit it. Danitz stood under the main cannon as he had his arms crossed. He was leisurely rushing the sailors, shouting from time to time, "Scrub that area again! Dog Shaster's T, do you wish to copy down the ancient Face-Sack dictionary? This fellow is quite impressive on the Golden Dream." Klein ignored the owner of the dream and flew to the other end of the ship. He found a hidden spot and landed on the deck before preparing to test his spiritual perception. What he planned on experimenting on was simple. He wanted to know if chanting the fool's honorific name in a dream was effective. He wanted to know if he could sense someone praying. This way, if Miss Justice encounters danger in the sea of collective subconscious, she can use this method to seek help. After stretching his back, Klein's expression gradually turned solemn as he softly said, "The fool that doesn't belong to this era. The mysterious ruler above the gray fog. The king of yellow and black who wields good luck." With the words in Hermes being spoken, he very quickly finished reciting the fool's honorific name. However, Klein didn't hear the series of illusory pleas. "It doesn't work?" Klein frowned in thought. He analyzed whether it was really impossible, or if he had made a mistake somewhere. Yes. Chanting in the dream doesn't actually produce any noise. Relying on Hermes alone isn't sufficient. To achieve the effects of praying, I'll have to use a language like ancient Hermes that can stir the powers of nature. This is the same state as me copying the account password of my anonymous account. Klein nodded slightly and began to chant his honorific name in ancient Hermes. He wasn't afraid that there would be an accident, but that his stirring of the powers of nature would wake blazing Danitz from his sleep. He recited each word, quickly finishing the 3 sentences. Following that, Klein heard the stack series of irritable and illusory pleas. At that moment, Danet's dream quivered as the golden dream quickly disintegrated. Klein didn't stay any longer and immediately left. He returned back to his bedroom before Danetz woke up. After 7 to 8 seconds, Danetz sat up in a daze as he muttered to himself in fear, "Why did I dream of that madman Gehrman's sparrow causing trouble on the golden dream? What a terrifying matter! Dog ****. It must be the result of me worrying over this matter all this time." Inside the bedroom, Klein had already taken 4 steps counterclockwise and gone above the gray fog. Without any surprises, he saw a rippling light by the fool's high-backed chair. And it was the scene of him in the dream. It really works. One can still receive a response when chanting the fool's honorific name in languages such as ancient Hermes or Jotun. It's no wonder some people might suddenly die in their sleep despite not doing a thing. They might be reading some materials or had memorized certain symbols in the day and accidentally replicated them in the dream. The danger in this world really cannot be prevented. Klein dispelled the rippling light and considered if he should inform Miss Justice of the results of the experiment. To only inform her later instead of saying it on the spot is a little damaging to the fool's image. But Miss Justice is the kind of girl with a huge sense of curiosity. Although she has been warned by Mr. Hangman and Admiral of Stars, and even if she's a little more mature now, there's still the chance of her taking risks. Of course, if anything were to happen, it's on herself, and it has nothing to do with me. Klein couldn't help but recall Miss Justice's adoration of the fool and the thought of her optimism and cheerfulness that brought him happiness, as well as her contributions towards the Tarot Club all this time. Finally, he sighed and said in a self-deprecating manner, "I still need to inform her and give a warning. This is the treatment a VIP gets." After making the decision, Klein didn't hesitate to spread out his spirituality to touch the crimson star representing Miss Justice. In a room of the huge manor in Eastchester County, Audrey had her legs leaning sideways as she sat before her dressing table. She was recalling the words Mr. Hangman and Ma'am Hermit had said. After being warned by 2 senior Beyonders, she suddenly realized something. It wasn't that the mid and upper echelons of the psychology alchemists wasn't aware that one could explore dreams, the icy mountain of the subconscious, and the sea of collective subconscious by using a self-induced psychological cue. The reason why they didn't tell me anything is because it's too dangerous for a psychiatrist. Many people have already died in such explorations. But they should warn me. Ah, right. From their point of view, I'm only a Sequence 8 telepathist. I'm not equipped with the powers of a psychological cue, so there was no need to warn me. Audrey finally understood the perplexing matter. Just as she was about to let Susie enter the room to calm the disappointment in her heart, she suddenly saw thick gray fog spew out, instantly flooding her vision. In the middle of the endless grayish-white, a figure sat in a high-backed chair. Looking down at her, it said, "Do not make attempts without careful consideration." Before Audrey realized what was happening, she heard the deep and majestic voice sound out again. "If you encounter dangers in your dreams, you can recite my name." "Recite your name?" Audrey's eyes widened as she became overjoyed. "Yes, Mr. Fool." Seeing that Miss Justice was excited instead of showing any doubts, Klein secretly heaved a sigh of relief and chuckled. "Use ancient Hermes." With that said, his figure faded away and the gray fog vanished. Audrey sat there stunned for 2 seconds before hurriedly pursing her lips, afraid that she wasn't on her best behavior. Mr. Fool actually specially warned me. He even permitted me to recite his name in my dream. Audrey excitedly took a few steps on the spot, believing that she had really become a blessed of God. Of course, she also remembered Mr. Fool's warning. She planned to understand more from the psychology alchemists, and make another attempt only when she was sufficiently prepared. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly as she randomly tapped her chest, saying silently, "May Mr. Fool watch over me." Above the gray fog, Klein began to consider another matter. Red-haired Helene, who had a reward worth £1,000, was actually related to Vice Admiral Ailment Tracy. Tracy took over Kalangos' crew and changed his flagship to the Black Death. As for Kalangos, he previously plundered a tycoon named Jimmy Necker. That tycoon had previously obtained parts of Death's chronicles. It came from a Balmoral family's mausoleum. This information came from that nightmare inside creeping hunger. It should benefit Mr. Azek to a certain extent. I can also investigate the matter in passing. Klein found another reason to look forward to finding red-haired Helene. He originally planned on using the magic mirror, a Rhodes, to find her, but now, he planned on mobilizing Sea God believers to perform a search. In the past, it's quite demeaning to send a revelation for just £1,000. But now that it involves a pirate admiral, it can barely make people guess that there are secret motives behind it. Klein conjured red-haired Helene's photo and summoned the Sea God's scepter. He had never done a mass revelation, so it was possible that it would be a burden that he couldn't withstand. He chose higher-ups like Kalat and Edmonton. With waves reaching high into the sky as a background, he said in a deep voice, "Find her and protect her. Be careful of Tracy's forces." Klein didn't provide further explanations as he broke down this scene along with red-haired Helene's photo into many sets before projecting them into the corresponding dots of light.